The champagne glass shattered against marble. Ariella's hands moved on instinct. White napkin, broken crystal, drops of gold liquid spreading across the floor like spilled secrets. Her knees hit the cold stone. Around her, the dining room of La Mer Luxe held its breath. She didn't look up. Not yet. The shoes she noticed first, Italian leather, polished black, probably worth more than 3 months of a rent. They stopped inches from the broken glass. A hand appeared in her peripheral vision, extended but not helping. Just waiting. Leave it, a voice said. Male. Calm. The kind of calm that made people nervous. Ariella's manager rushed over, face red, already apologizing to someone she couldn't see. Mr. Mancini, I'm so sorry. We'll replace. I said leave it. The room went quieter somehow, like someone had turned down the volume on the entire world. Ariella stood slowly, glass shard still in her hand wrapped in the damp napkin. When she finally lifted her eyes, she understood why the entire restaurant staff had frozen the moment these people walked in. Luca Mancini sat at the center table like he owned gravity itself. Dark suit, darker eyes. The kind of face that magazines paid millions to photograph but never quite captured right, because cameras couldn't catch the weight he carried behind that expression. His mother sat to his right, silver hair swept back, diamonds at her throat, watching everything with the focus of a hawk tracking prey. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. 3 other family members filled out the table. Cousins maybe. Brothers. Ariella didn't know and didn't care. She only knew that her tips tonight would either be incredible or non-existent, depending on how the next 60 seconds went. Your usual server called in sick. The manager whispered too loudly in her ear. Just keep your head down, smile, don't ask questions. Ariella nodded, tucked a loose strand of black hair behind her ear, approached the table like she was approaching a sleeping wolf. Good evening, she said, voice steady, not warm, not cold, just professional. What can I get started for you tonight? Luca's gaze lifted to her face, held there. She'd been stared at before, by drunk customers, by men who thought money bought anything, by women who looked through service workers like they were furniture. This felt different. He wasn't looking at her body or her uniform or the name tag pinned crooked on her chest. He was reading her. You're new, he said, just covering. Ariella kept her notepad ready. The menu tonight features. How long have you worked here? Behind him, his mother's fork paused halfway to her mouth. 8 months, Ariella answered. Honest. Simple. And before that, does it matter? The words came out before she could stop them. The cousin to Luca's left, younger, meaner looking, leaned forward with a grin that showed too many teeth. She's got bite. I like her. Luca's jaw tightened. Just barely. Just enough for Ariella to notice he didn't like his cousin's comment. The Barolo, Lucas said, eyes still on her face. The 2015. And tell the chef we'll take the tasting menu. Ariella wrote it down. Started to turn. Miss, his voice caught her mid-step. What's your name? She looked back. Does it matter? This time, something shifted in his expression. Not quite a smile. More like recognition of something unexpected. Ariella, she added after a beat. My name is Ariella. He nodded once. Dismissed her with that small gesture like a king releasing a subject. She walked away, feeling his eyes on her back the entire way to the kitchen. Inside, the sous chef was already panicking. Table 12 is the Mancini family. The Mancini family, Ariella. Do you understand what that means? She didn't. Not really. But she was about to. Have you ever served someone who made the whole room go silent, just by existing? Drop a comment. I want to know if you would have stayed calm or ran. The pianist started playing at 9. Ariella had refilled their wine 3 times, delivered 6 courses, and managed not to drop anything else. The Mancini table ate in near silence. Occasional murmurs between family members, but mostly just the sound of silverware against porcelain and ice melting in expensive cocktails. She was clearing their dessert plates when the music shifted. Something slow, something old. The kind of song that made couples stand and sway without thinking about it. Across the dining room, 2 older guests moved to the small dance floor near the windows. Then another pair. The restaurant transformed. from a place where people ate into a place where people remembered what it felt like to be young. Ariella balanced 4 plates on her left arm, reaching for the 5th. "Dance with me." She froze. Turned. Lucas stood behind her. Not close enough to touch, but close enough that she could smell his cologne. Something dark and expensive, cedar and smoke. "Excuse me," Ariella said. Around them, conversations died. Forks stopped moving. Even the pianist seemed to play quieter, like he wanted to hear what happened next. Luca's mouth curved slightly. Not quite a smile. More like amusement at a private joke. "My mother is watching." Ariella followed his gaze to the older woman at the table. Elena Mancini sat with her wine glass raised, eyes sharp as broken glass, studying her son with an expression that could have been pride or fury or both. "If you say no," Luca continued, voice low enough that only Ariella could hear, "she'll have my head before the check arrives." Ariella looked at the plates still balanced on her arm. At her manager near the kitchen door, eyes wide, shaking his head in tiny, frantic movements. At the other servers frozen mid-step, watching this play out like it was a crime scene. Every instinct screamed, "Walk away." This man was dangerous. His family was dangerous. Getting involved meant trouble she couldn't afford. But something else whispered underneath that fear, something about the way he'd asked. Not demanded, not assumed, asked, like he needed the cover more than he needed the dance. Ariella set the plates down on the nearest service station, wiped her hands on her apron, met his eyes straight on. "Then let's give her a show she'll never forget." Something flashed across his face. Surprise maybe, or respect. He extended his hand. She took it. His palm was warm, calloused in unexpected places, not the soft hands of someone who'd never worked, but not rough either. Her own hands were red from hot water and dish soap, nails cut short, no jewelry except the thin silver chain around her neck her grandmother left her. They moved to the center of the floor. His other hand settled at her waist. Light, careful, like he was holding something that might break. "You're not afraid of me," he said. Not a question, an observation. Should I be? Ariella matched his steps easily. She learned to dance in her father's restaurant years ago, back when they still had one, before everything fell apart. Everyone else is. Everyone else doesn't have to pay rent in 3 days. That surprised a real smile out of him. Small, brief, but genuine. They turned slowly, moving between other couples who gave them a wide berth. The music swelled. Violins and piano. Something Italian she didn't recognize but felt in her chest anyway. "Who are you?" Luca asked quietly. His eyes searched her face like he was trying to solve a puzzle. "Someone who's late for her second job," Ariella answered. "You work 2 jobs? 3 if you count the overnight shifts at the hospital." She didn't know why she was telling him this. Didn't know why his hand at her waist felt less like a threat and more like an anchor. His grip tightened, just slightly. "You shouldn't have to, but I do." She cut him off gently. "That's just how it is." The song built toward its ending. Around them, other couples were lost in their own worlds, but Ariella felt the weight of every eye in the restaurant, especially Elena Mancini's. The older woman watched them like a scientist observing an experiment, curious but ready to shut it down the second it went wrong. "Why did you really ask me to dance?" Ariella said. Luca's jaw worked. He looked over her shoulder, past her, at something only he could see. Because sometimes you need to pretend everything's normal, even when it's not. The music ended. They stopped moving, but didn't step apart immediately. His thumb brushed against her waist, so quick she almost thought she imagined it. Then he released her, stepped back, gave a small nod that felt more personal than any words could have been. "Thank you," he said. Ariella returned to her section, picked up the abandoned plates, tried to ignore how her hands shook slightly. At the Mancini table, Elena clapped softly. 3 deliberate claps that sounded more like a warning than applause. Luca sat back down without looking at his mother. But he didn't look at Ariella again either. Not when they paid. Not when they stood to leave. Not when his cousin whispered something that made his shoulders go rigid. The family left at 11. Generous tip. No eye contact. Ariella finished her shift, changed in the employee bathroom, and walked out into the Manhattan night at midnight. The street lights buzzed. Distant sirens wailed. Her feet ached in shoes held together with duct tape and prayer. She was halfway down the block when she noticed the car. Black. Expensive. Idling at the corner with its engine purring like a sleeping predator. The back window rolled down. Luca Mancini leaned out, something small and silver in his hand. "You left this," he said. "Her grandmother's necklace. The class must have broken during the dance." Ariella approached slowly. Took the necklace. Their fingers didn't touch this time. "You followed me," she said. He didn't deny it. "You shouldn't walk alone here. Queens has unpredictable nights. I've seen worse. Something tells me you have." He studied her with that same intense focus from the restaurant. "You don't belong in this world." Ariella looked at him, really looked, at the expensive suit and the dangerous family and the weight he carried like armor. At the loneliness buried so deep he probably thought no one could see it. "Neither do you," she said quietly. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Lucas smiled, a real one this time, the kind that reached his eyes and made him look younger, less broken, almost human. "Good night, Ariella." The window rolled up. The car pulled away. She watched it disappear into traffic, the necklace still warm in her hand. If a dangerous man waited outside your job to return something you lost, would you see it as protection or a threat? Comment bido? The headache started during her morning shift at the hospital. Ariella was restocking supplies in the ICU when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. "Don't go to work tonight." Male voice. Not Luca's. Younger. Nervous. "Who is this?" "Doesn't matter. Just don't go to La Mer Lux. They're looking for you." The line went dead. Ariella stood in the supply closet, boxes of gauze in her arms, trying to make sense of words that didn't make sense. Who was looking? Why? She went anyway. Stupid maybe. But she needed the money, and mysterious phone calls from strangers weren't enough to make her give up a Friday night's tips. The restaurant was closed. Not closed for a private event or closed for cleaning. Closed. Yellow tape across the door. Health department notice stapled to the frame. Official-looking people in suits taking photographs of the kitchen. Her manager stood on the sidewalk, smoking with shaking hands. When he saw Ariella, he looked away quickly. Too quickly. "What happened?" she asked. "Shut down. Last night, he took a long drag. Some violation, they said. But everyone knows." "Knows what?" He finally looked at her. Really looked. And she saw fear there. "You danced with him. With Luca Mancini. In front of his mother. So nothing good comes from getting between that family and what they want." He dropped his cigarette. Crushed it under his heel. "Find another job, Ariella. Somewhere far from here." He walked away before she could ask anything else. Ariella stood on the sidewalk as the afternoon turned to evening. Watched the sun set between buildings. Watched the city swallow the light. Her phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. This time it was a text. "Go home. Lock your door. I'll explain tomorrow." She should have been scared. Should have called the police or her friends or someone who could help. Instead, she walked to the subway feeling strangely calm. Like she'd been waiting for her quiet life to explode, and now it finally had. Her apartment was exactly how she left it. Third floor walk up, one bedroom. Radiator that clanked all night. Neighbor's TV bleeding through thin walls. She locked the door. Both locks. The chain too. Made tea she didn't drink. Sat on her couch. Waited. At 9 o'clock, someone knocked. Ariella looked through the peephole. Empty hallway. But when she opened the door, chain still on, there was an envelope on the floor. Plain white. No markings. Heavy. She brought it inside. Opened it with trembling fingers. Inside, a bank receipt. Her mother's nursing home. Medical bills. The amount she owed, $47,000, stamped in red with paid in full across the top. And a single note in handwriting she didn't recognize. She shouldn't suffer for your pride. Ed. Ariella sat on her kitchen floor, receipt in her lap, and laughed. Not because anything was funny, because nothing made sense anymore and laughing felt better than screaming. Luca Mancini had paid her mother's medical bills, had closed down her job, had followed her home and warned her about danger she didn't understand. Why? The knock came again. Harder this time. Ariella stood, walked to the door. looked through the peephole. Lucas stood in her hallway. No suit this time. Dark jeans, black jacket, hair slightly messy like he'd been running his hands through it. She opened the door. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "I know. Your mother closed my restaurant. I know. You paid my mother's bills. I know." Ariella stepped back. "Let him in." Closed the door behind them. They stood in her tiny kitchen, him too large for the space, her too tired to be afraid anymore. "Why?" she asked. Luca leaned against the counter, looked at everything, the chipped paint, the secondhand furniture, the photograph of her parents on the wall, like he was memorizing it. "Because you asked me a question last night," he said quietly. "You said I don't belong in that world either. And you're right." He met her eyes. "I don't, but I'm trapped there. Have been for years." "So what? You saw me and decided to play savior." "No." He pushed off the counter, stepped closer. "I saw you and realized I'd forgotten what real life looked like." Ariella crossed her arms. "This isn't real life. This is you throwing money at problems because you can. You think I'm trying to buy you, aren't you?" The words hung between them, sharp and honest, and too close to something neither wanted to admit. Luca ran a hand through his hair, laughed once, bitter. "My family destroyed your father." Ariella went still. "What?" "The restaurant he owned. Monroe's. Your last name, right?" Luca's voice went flat. "Empty. 10 years ago, my father wanted the property. Your father wouldn't sell, so he made it impossible for him to stay in business." The kitchen floor tilted. Ariella grabbed the counter. The bankruptcy, the loans that got called in, the health violations that appeared out of nowhere. Luca kept talking, each word landing like a stone. "That was my family. That was my father. And I found out 3 days ago when I looked into who you were." "Why would you?" "Because you're the first person in 5 years who's looked at me like I'm human instead of useful." He said it simply, like stating a fact. "And when I realized what we did to you, to your family," he stopped, swallowed hard. "I can't fix the past, but I can fix this." Ariella stared at him, at this man who'd walked into her life 2 days ago and blown it apart. At the truth she'd never known, but somehow always suspected, that her father's collapse hadn't been bad luck, that someone had pushed him. "Get out," she whispered. Luca nodded, turned toward the door. "Wait." The word came out before she could stop it. He looked back. "If your mother finds out you told me this," Ariella said slowly, "what happens to you?" His smile was sad. "Nothing good." "Then why risk it?" "Because you asked me to dance like I was nobody special." He opened her door, paused in the frame. "And maybe if I help you, I can pretend I am." He left. Ariella stood in her kitchen, receipts still on the floor, and understood with perfect clarity that her quiet life was over. Outside her window, a black car pulled away from the curb. Different car, different driver. Someone else was watching now. If you discovered your family's ruin was deliberate, would you accept help from the people who destroyed you, or burn it all down? Tell me in the comments. 3 days passed. Ariella didn't go looking for work, didn't answer her phone except to check on her mother, didn't leave her apartment unless absolutely necessary. But every morning, she found something waiting. Day 1, groceries. Good ones. Fresh vegetables, real meat, coffee that didn't taste like dirt. Day 2, an envelope with cash. Enough to cover rent plus extra. No note. Day 3, nothing. Just silence. She hated that the silence bothered her most. On day 4, she went to visit her mother. Sunset Care Facility sat on the edge of Queens. Old building, good staff, expensive as hell. Her mother had been there 2 years now. Early onset dementia. Some days she knew Ariella. Some days she called her by her sister's name. Some days she just stared out windows and hummed songs from a life she couldn't quite remember. "Hi, Mama," Ariella said, settling into the chair beside her mother's bed. Naomi Monroe looked up, smiled. "Baby girl, what did you get so tall?" "I've always been this tall, Mama." No, you were tiny, like a bird." Her mother's hands moved restlessly across the blanket. "Where's your father?" "He's late for dinner again." Ariella's throat tightened. "He's working, Mama. You know how he is." Her father had been dead 6 years. Heart attack. 3 months after losing the restaurant. The doctors said it was genetic. Bad cholesterol. Poor diet. But Ariella knew better. You could die from a broken heart. She'd watched it happen. Did you eat today? Ariella asked, changing the subject. The nice man brought me flowers. Her mother pointed to the windowsill. Ariella turned. Fresh roses. White ones. Expensive. What nice man? The one with the sad eyes. Said he knew you. Her mother smiled again. He's handsome. You should marry him. Ariella's stomach dropped. When was he here? This morning, maybe? Or yesterday? Time's funny now. Her mother's gaze drifted back to the window. Started humming. Ariella stood. Walked to the nurse's station. Who brought my mother flowers? The nurse on duty, Marcus, kind eyes, always patient, checked his log. Visitor this morning around 8. Didn't leave a name, but he paid her bill for the next 6 months. In full. Of course he did. Ariella took the subway back to her apartment. Walked the 3 blocks from the station to her building. Climbed the stairs. Luca was sitting on her floor outside her door. No bodyguards. No expensive car idling below. Just him back against the wall, looking exhausted. You can't keep doing this, Ariella said. Doing what? Showing up. Paying for things. Following me. He stood slowly. I'm keeping you safe. From what? From my mother. He said it simply. She knows I helped you. Knows I told you about your father. And she doesn't forgive distractions. I'm not a distraction. I'm nobody. That's what makes you dangerous. Lucas stepped closer. Close enough she could see the shadows under his eyes. You make me want to be different. And people like my mother, they kill anything that threatens their control. Ariella unlocked her door. You should go. I know. Your family is probably looking for you. I know. This isn't some romance story where the broken rich guy saves the poor girl. I know that too. He smiled slightly. But maybe it's the story where they save each other. Before she could respond, her phone rang. Unknown number again. But when she answered this time, the voice was different. Female. Cold. Miss Monroe. This is Elena Mancini. Ariella's blood went ice. I think it's time we met. Properly. The older woman's voice was smooth as poison. Tomorrow. 2 o'clock. The plaza. Just you. If you bring my son, things will become unpleasant. What do you want? To make you an offer you'd be foolish to refuse. See you tomorrow, dear. The line died. Ariella lowered the phone. Looked at Luca. Your mother wants to meet me. His face went pale. No. She said tomorrow. No. He grabbed her shoulders. Gentle but firm. You don't understand. When my mother invites people to meetings, they don't always come back. Then what do? You run. Tonight. I'll give you money. Set you up somewhere safe. Somewhere she'll never. I'm not running. Ariella pulled away. I've been running my whole life. From my father's debts. From his shame. From every mistake I didn't even make. This is different. How? Because Lucas stopped. Struggled with words. Because I care what happens to you. And I've spent 5 years not caring about anything. The admission hung between them. Heavy. Real. Ariella reached up. Touched his face. Let her palm rest against his jaw. Then help me survive tomorrow, she said quietly. Teach me how to talk to her. How to walk out of that meeting alive. Luca closed his eyes. Leaned into her touch like it was the first kind thing anyone had done for him in years. Okay, he whispered. But if anything goes wrong, if she threatens you, if she even looks at you wrong, you get out. Promise me. I promise. He opened his eyes. I'll be nearby. You won't see me, but I'll be there. Okay. They stood in her doorway, hands still touching, the city humming around them. Tomorrow, Ariella would meet the woman who destroyed her family. Tonight, she'd learn how to survive monsters wearing pearls. Have you ever had to face someone who terrified you? Comment below. Courage loves company. The plaza lobby smelled like old money and fresh flowers. Ariella walked through glass doors at exactly 2 o'clock. She dressed carefully. Simple black dress borrowed from a friend. Hair pulled back. No jewelry except her grandmother's necklace. Luca had coached her last night. Look respectful but not desperate. Answer questions directly. Never volunteer information. And above all, don't show fear. Elena Mancini waited in a private tea room on the 2nd floor. The older woman sat perfectly straight, teacup in hand, diamonds catching light from crystal chandeliers. She didn't stand when Ariella entered. Didn't smile. just gestured to the seat across from her. Sit, child. Ariella sat. Elena studied her for a long moment, those hawk eyes taking in every detail. The cheap dress, the worn shoes, the way Ariella's hand stayed steady on her lap despite her racing heart. You're prettier than I expected, Elena said finally. Usually the girls my son notices are more obvious. I'm not trying to be noticed. And yet here you are. Elena poured tea. Offered a cup. Sugar. No, thank you. Smart. Sugar makes you soft. Dependent. Elena took a delicate sip. Do you know why I asked you here? To tell me to stay away from your son. No. The word came sharp. Definitive. I asked you here to understand what you want from him. Ariella met her eyes directly. Nothing. Everyone wants something. Not from him. Elena set down her cup. The sound of porcelain on porcelain echoed too loud. My son paid your mother's medical bills. Closed down your place of employment. Has been following you for days. And you claim to want nothing. I didn't ask for any of that. But you accepted it. The bills were already paid before I knew. What was I supposed to do? Refuse how my mother needed? Yes. Elena leaned forward slightly. That's exactly what you should have done. Because now you're in debt to my family. And we always collect. Ariella's stomach twisted. What do you want? I want you to disappear. Elena said it casually, like discussing the weather. I'll pay you. Generously. Enough to set up your mother in an excellent facility anywhere in the country. Enough for you to start over somewhere far from New York. Somewhere my son will never find you. You're bribing me to leave. I'm offering you a future. Elena's voice sharpened. My son is engaged to be married. To a woman from a family that matters. A woman who will help expand our business. A woman who understands her place. Ariella went cold. He didn't mention being engaged. Because 5 years ago, his fiancée died in a car accident. And he's blamed himself ever since. Elena's mask slipped slightly. Just for a moment, Ariella saw something human underneath. Grief maybe, or regret. He sees you as redemption. A second chance. But you're not. You're just a girl who was in the right place at the right time. If that's true, why are you here? Because my son is weak when it comes to guilt. And you, Elena gestured dismissively. You represent everything he wishes he could be. Simple, clean, unburdened. I'm not unburdened. Your family destroyed mine. The words came out before Ariella could stop them. Elena's expression didn't change. I know. My husband made that decision. I disagreed with his methods, but the result was necessary. Your father's property was valuable. He refused to negotiate. So you ruined him. I gave him multiple opportunities. He chose pride. Elena picked up her tea again. Just like you're choosing pride now instead of sense. Ariella stood. I'm not taking your money. Sit down. No. Sit. Down. This time, Elena's voice carried weight. Command. The kind of authority that came from decades of being obeyed. Ariella stayed standing. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Two women from completely different worlds, connected by one complicated man. Finally, Elena smiled. But it didn't reach her eyes. You're stronger than you look. I respect that. She pulled an envelope from her purse. Set on the table. This is a certified check. $500,000. Take it. Leave New York. Save yourself. And if I don't, then you'll discover why people fear my family. Elena stood now too. Smoothed her skirt. I've removed obstacles before, Miss Monroe. Some quietly. Some less so. I prefer not to hurt you. But I will protect my son's future. Even from himself. Ariella's hands clenched. He told me about my father. About what your husband did. Then you understand exactly what we're capable of. Elena walked toward the door. Paused with her hand on the frame. You have 48 hours. After that, things become complicated. She left. Ariella stood alone in the tea room. Envelope on the table. Heart hammering against her ribs. Outside in the hallway, she heard voices. Elena speaking to someone. Then footsteps. Multiple pairs. Moving fast. The door opened. But it wasn't Luca. It was a man she'd seen at the restaurant. Luca's cousin. The one with mean eyes and a smile that showed too many teeth. Dominic Varela walked in with two others. Both large. Both armed. Heard you had tea with my aunt, Dominic said. She tell you to run? Ariella backed toward the window. She made an offer. Good. Take it. He stepped closer. Because I'm not as patient as she is. Your problem. And I solve problems. Luca won't let you. Luca isn't here. Dominic's smile widened. And by the time he finds out, you'll be gone. One of the men grabbed her arm. Ariella kicked, connected with his knee. He grunted, but didn't let go. The other one moved behind her. She felt something cold against her neck. A needle. Just a sedative. Dominic whispered near her ear. My aunt wants you gone. I'm making sure you stay gone. The world tilted. Her legs stopped working. The last thing she saw before everything went black was her grandmother's necklace falling from her throat, landing on expensive carpet, silver chain breaking against imported tile. Somewhere far away, she heard a phone ringing. Then nothing. When the person you trusted most can't save you, do you fight or accept fate? Drop your answer below. Chapter 6 decides everything. Cold water hit her face. Ariella gasped, choked. Her eyes flew open to darkness, not complete, but close. A single bulb swung overhead, casting moving shadows across concrete walls. Her hands were bound behind a metal chair, rope cut into her wrists. Her head throbbed where the needle had gone in, leaving her thoughts thick and slow. Dominic sat across from her on a wooden crate, cleaning his nails with a knife. Welcome back, he said without looking up. You were out longer than expected. Thought maybe we'd used too much. Ariella's mouth was dry, tasted like copper and chemicals. Where am I? Somewhere my cousin won't find you. Not quickly anyway. He finally looked up, smiled that terrible smile. My aunt wanted you scared and gone. I'm just making sure you understand how serious we are. Behind him, the two men from the plaza leaned against the wall. One checked his phone. The other smoked a cigarette, ash falling on the concrete floor. They were in a warehouse. Empty. Old. The kind of place where screams wouldn't carry. Luca will come, Ariella said. Eventually. But by then, you'll have made the smart choice. Dominic stood, walked closer, crouched in front of her chair. See, my aunt thinks you're different. Special somehow. She's willing to pay you to leave. Me? I think you're just another girl who got in over her head. Then why not just kill me? The words came out steadier than she felt. Dominic laughed. Because that would make you a martyr. And my cousin's already got one of those. His dead fiancée. He doesn't need another ghost to worship. He stood, paced. The knife still in his hand caught light with each turn. No, what you need is to understand that this world, our world, it eats people like you. Good people, hopeful people, people who think love conquers all. He stopped pacing. It doesn't. Money does. Power does. Fear does. If you're trying to scare me into taking the money, I'm trying to save your life. For the first time, Dominic's voice carried something other than cruelty. Almost sounded genuine. You think Luca's different? He's not. He's a Mancini. When push comes to shove, he'll choose family over you. He always does. Ariella met his eyes. You're wrong. Am I? 5 years ago, his fiancée found out about our business. The real business. Not the restaurants and real estate, the other stuff. She threatened to go to the police. Dominic crouched again, lowered his voice. Guess who talked her out of it? Guess who convinced her to stay quiet, to trust the family? Ariella's stomach turned. Luca. My golden cousin. He promised they'd go clean. Promised they'd leave together. She believed him. Dominic's smile turned sad. 2 weeks later, her brakes failed. Car went off a bridge. Tragic accident. You're lying. I wish I was. Because that's when Luca learned the lesson you're about to learn. You can't save people in this family. You can only watch them burn. Footsteps echoed outside. Multiple pairs. Moving fast. Dominic stood quickly. That was faster than I thought. The warehouse door exploded inward. Not kicked, blown. The sound was deafening, violent, final. Luca walked through the smoke and splintered wood like something out of a nightmare. Gun drawn. Face empty of everything except purpose. Behind him, 3 men Ariella had never seen. Armed. Professional. Moving like soldiers. Let her go, Lucas said. His voice was calm. Terrifyingly calm. Dominic raised his hands, still holding the knife. Cousin, I know what you were doing. My mother sent you. To scare her. To make her run. Luca's gun never wavered. Cut her loose. Or what? You'll shoot me? Your own blood? I've done worse for less. The two men against the wall reached for their weapons. Luca's people were faster. 3 guns trained. 3 clicks of safeties coming off. Dominic laughed, but it sounded hollow. You'd start a war over a waitress? No. Luca stepped closer. The guns still level. Still steady. I'd start a war to end one. This family has been killing good people for 3 generations. It stops now. You're being dramatic. Am I? How many accidents has Mother arranged? How many business partners disappeared? How many women like Ariella got worn off or worse? Luca's voice rose slightly. The only crack in his control. I know what happened to Jasmine. I know it wasn't an accident. And I'm done pretending. Dominic's smile faded. If you do this, if you choose her over us, there's no coming back. Mother will never forgive it. The family will never accept it. Good. Luca looked past his cousin to Ariella. Their eyes met. Cut her loose. Now. One of Luca's men moved forward. Cut the ropes. Ariella's hands came free, wrists raw and bleeding where the rope had dug in. She stood on shaking legs. Luca caught her elbow, steadied her. You okay? He asked quietly. She nodded. Couldn't speak yet. Luca turned back to Dominic. Tell my mother I'm out. Tell her the restaurants, the properties, all of it. She can have it. But if she comes after Ariella again, I'll burn everything. Every ledger. Every secret account. Every piece of dirt I've been collecting for 5 years. You wouldn't. Try me. For a long moment, nobody moved. The warehouse held its breath. Then Dominic lowered the knife. You're making a mistake. Probably. But it's mine to make. Luca guided Ariella toward the broken door. His men backed out slowly, weapons still trained. Outside, night had fallen. 3 black SUVs waited. Different ones. Not the family cars. Luca opened the back door of the middle vehicle. Get in. Ariella climbed inside. He followed. The door shut. The convoy moved. She looked at him in the dim interior light. At the man who'd just chosen her over everything he'd ever known. Your cousin said. I know what he said. Luca's jaw tightened. About Jasmine. About the accident. It's true. I didn't know until after, but by then, his voice broke. By then it was too late. Luca, I should have protected her. Should have seen what my mother was capable of. But I was young and stupid, and I thought I could change things from the inside. He looked at her finally. I won't make that mistake twice. Ariella reached for his hand. Found it. Held tight. Where are we going? Away. Far enough that my mother's reach doesn't extend. At least for now. And then I finish what I started. His fingers closed around hers. I take her down. The whole empire. Every illegal thing they've ever done. I have evidence. Names. Dates. Enough to put half the family away for life. That will destroy you too. I know. He smiled slightly. Sad but certain. But maybe that's what I need. To burn it all down and see what's left. The SUV drove through dark streets. Away from Manhattan. Away from a life Luca had always known. In his pocket, his phone buzzed. Then again. Then continuously. His mother calling. His family calling. The empire demanding he come back. He turned the phone off. Threw it out the window. Have you ever watched someone sacrifice everything for what they believed was right? Comment below. This story needs your voice. The safe house was in Connecticut. 3 hours from the city. Quiet town. The kind where neighbors noticed strangers, but minded their business if you paid them well enough. Ariella stood in the small kitchen of a rented cabin, watching Luca make coffee at 4 in the morning. Neither of them had slept. Too much adrenaline. Too many questions without answers. Your mother won't stop, she said. I know. She'll send more than Dominic next time. I know. So what's the plan? Luca poured 2 cups. Handed her one. His hands were steady despite everything. I have a lawyer. Someone outside the family. I've been sending him documentation for 2 years. Every transaction. Every payoff. Every body they buried. Literally and figuratively. Why didn't you use it before? Because I was afraid. Because I thought I could reform them from the inside. Because he stopped. Drank his coffee. Because I was a coward. You're not a coward. I'll let Jasmine die. I let my family destroy yours. I stood by while my mother ruined lives because it was easier than fighting. He set down his cup. That's cowardice. Ariella moved closer. But you're fighting now. Only because I have something worth fighting for. He looked at her. Or someone. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Before Ariella could respond, her phone rang. She'd grabbed it from her apartment before Luca whisked her away. Unknown number. Again. She answered. Hello. Miss Monroe. This is Marcus. From your mother's facility. His voice was tight. Frightened. Your mother. Someone came asking about her. About her care. About who's been paying. Ariella's blood went cold. Is she okay? She's fine. We moved her to a secure wing. But these men, they weren't here to hurt her. They were here to send you a message. What message? That family always comes first. That's what they said. Family always comes first. Marcus paused. Miss Monroe, I don't know what's happening, but maybe you should come get your mother. Take her somewhere safe. The line went dead. Ariella lowered the phone. Looked at Luca. They went to my mother's facility. His face went hard. They didn't hurt her? Not yet. But they will. That's the message. Come back, or they hurt her. Luca grabbed his jacket. We're getting her out. Tonight. Now. Your mother will be watching the facility. I don't care. Luca. I said I don't care. He turned, eyes blazing. I'll let Jasmine die because I underestimated what my family would do. I won't make that mistake with your mother. We get her out. We hide her. Then we finish this. They drove back to New York in silence. The highway stretched empty and dark. Ariella watched the trees blur past, mind racing through scenarios. All of them ended badly. At the facility, Marcus met them at a side entrance. He looked exhausted, scared. Security saw 3 men in the parking lot an hour ago, he whispered. They left, but they're probably watching. Where is she? Luca asked. 2nd floor. Room 212. But Luca was already moving. Ariella followed. They took the stairs. Moved quickly but quietly. Naomi Monroe sat by her window, humming. She looked up when they entered. Smiled at Ariella. Baby girl, you brought a friend. Mama, we need to go. Right now. Can you walk? Of course I can walk. Why are you being strange? Her mother stood. Moved slowly but steadily. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. They made it to the 1st floor before the men appeared. 4 of them. Not Dominic's crew. Different. Older. More professional. The lead 1 step forward. Mr. Mancini, your mother would like to speak with you. Tell her no. She insists. And I insist on leaving with these 2 women. You can either move, or I can make you move. The man smiled. Not cruel. Just tired. You know I can't do that. Luca's hand moved to his jacket. Where Ariella knew, he kept a gun. Don't, the man said. We're not here to hurt anyone. Just to deliver a message. Your mother is willing to negotiate. There's nothing to negotiate. She says she'll leave Miss Monroe alone. And her mother. Completely. No interference. No threats. You have her word. Her word means nothing. She also said to tell you that if you force this confrontation, people will die. Good people. Staff here. Nurses. Security guards who don't deserve to be caught in family business. The man's voice softened. She's giving you an out, sir. One last chance to come home. Ariella grabbed Luca's arm. Maybe we should listen. No. This is what she does. She makes threats. She makes you responsible for other people's safety. Then she uses that to control you. But if people die because of us, they won't. Because we're leaving. And she won't risk a public incident here. Not when police could get involved. Luca turned back to the man. Tell my mother I'll see her soon. But on my terms. Not hers. They walked past the 4 men. Nobody moved to stop them. But Ariella felt their eyes tracking every step. Outside, dawn was breaking. Pink light spreading across the parking lot. Her mother breathed in the cool air. This is nice, Naomi said. I haven't been outside in days. Mama, we're going on a trip. Where? Somewhere pretty. Somewhere quiet. Will your father be there? Ariella's throat closed. Maybe, Mama. Maybe. They got into Luca's car. He drove fast. Out of Queens. Out of the city. North toward the safe house. Halfway there, his phone rang. The new one he bought yesterday. Only 3 people had the number. He answered on speaker. Yeah. It's Dominic. His cousin's voice was clipped. Urgent. You need to hear this. My aunt. Your mother. She's not negotiating anymore. She's called a family meeting. Tonight, every lieutenant, every enforcer, every cousin with a stake in the business. So she's putting a price on your head. And on hers, meaning Ariella, 5 million, each, dead or alive. Luca's hands tightened on the wheel. You telling me this why? Because I'm tired of this. Of her. Of what this family has become. Dominic paused. Use whatever evidence you have. Burn it all down. But do it today, before tonight. Because after that meeting, there won't be anywhere safe for either of you. The line went dead. Ariella looked at Luca, at the man who'd given up everything, who'd chosen her over an empire, who was now being hunted by his own blood. What do we do? She asked. His jaw set. We dance. What? My mother started this by making me dance with you in front of her, to prove I was still under control. Still hers. He looked at Ariella. So we end the same way. We dance. We show her I'm not. When the final battle comes, do you face it head on or keep running? Tell us in the comments. The dock smelled like salt and diesel and old fish. Luca's contact had arranged everything. A boat waiting. Documents ready. Money transferred to offshore accounts. By tomorrow morning, they could disappear. New names. New lives. The evidence would go to the FBI automatically if Luca didn't check in. But they had to survive tonight first. The warehouse where they'd taken Ariella days before was abandoned now. Empty except for shadows and the sound of water lapping against old concrete. This was where Luca had asked to meet his mother. Neutral ground. No family enforcers. No guns. Just them. She won't come alone, Ariella said. They stood in the center of the empty space, waiting as sunset bled into night. I know, but she'll come. Her pride won't let her refuse. And if this doesn't work, Luca pulled her close, rested his forehead against hers. Then we tried, and that's more than most people do. Headlights cut through the darkness. 3 cars. Black. Expensive. They parked outside. Elena Mancini walked in first. Alone. No bodyguards visible, but Ariella knew they were there. Watching. Waiting. The older woman looked smaller somehow. Older. Like the weight of what she'd built was finally crushing her. Luca, she said. Her voice echoed in the empty space. You asked for this meeting. Here I am. I want you to drop the contract. On both of us. And why would I do that? Because I'm giving you a choice. Walk away now. Let us disappear, and your empire stays intact. Force this, and everything I know goes public tomorrow morning. Elena's mouth tightened. You destroy your family name? Your father's legacy. Our family name was destroyed the moment you started ordering hits on innocent people. Father's legacy is blood and corruption. I'm done protecting it. And what about loyalty? What about everything I taught you? You taught me power matters more than people. That control matters more than truth. That family means obedience. Luca's voice cracked. You were wrong. Elena looked at Ariella. Really looked at her for the first time. You did this. You made him weak. No, Luca said before Ariella could respond. She made me strong enough to stop pretending. For a long moment, silence filled the warehouse. Then Elena laughed. Bitter. Exhausted. You really love her. I do. Enough to lose everything. Already lost everything that mattered. Years ago, when I chose your approval over my own soul. He stepped forward. This is your last chance, Mother. Let us go. Elena's eyes glistened. Tears maybe, or just anger. I gave you everything. Built an empire for you. Protected you from every threat. And this is how you repay me. You built a prison and called it protection. Luca's voice softened. I know you think you were doing right, that you were keeping us safe. But somewhere along the way, you forgot that safety means nothing without freedom. Freedom is a luxury for people who don't understand how the world works. Then maybe the world needs to change. Elena opened her mouth to respond. Stopped. Behind her, figures emerged from the shadows. Dominic, 2 lieutenants, men Luca had grown up with, men who'd sworn loyalty to the family. They weren't drawing weapons, just watching, waiting to see how this ended. You put me in an impossible position, Elena said quietly. If I let you go, I look weak. The family falls apart. Everything I built crumbles. Then let it crumble. Luca extended his hand to Ariella. Dance with me. She stared at him. What? Like we did at the restaurant. When this all started. One more time. There was no music. No pianist. No elegant crowd. Just cold concrete and distant city sounds and the smell of the harbor. But Ariella took his hand anyway. They moved together slowly. His arm around her waist. Her hand on his shoulder. Swaying to a rhythm only they could hear. Elena watched. Dominic watched. The lieutenants watched. And something shifted. You asked me to dance that night to fool your mother, Ariella whispered. To make her think you were still controllable. I know, but you're doing it now for the opposite reason. I am. Luca pulled her closer. I'm showing her that some things matter more than empires. That love isn't weakness. That choosing another person over power is the strongest thing you can do. They turned slowly under the single flickering warehouse light. Elena's hand moved to her purse. For a moment, Ariella's breath stopped. But the older woman didn't pull out a weapon. She pulled out her phone. Made a call. Stand down, she said into it. Her voice was tired. Ancient. All contracts canceled. Effective immediately. She hung up. Looked at her son. You win, she said simply. Take your waitress. Leave New York. Build whatever pathetic little life you think will make you happy. Her voice hardened. But understand this. You are no longer my son. You're no longer a Mancini. And if you ever come back, if you ever try to use that evidence against this family, I will not be merciful. Lucas stopped dancing, but he didn't let go of Ariella. I understand. Do you? Because once you walk out that door, there's no coming back. No forgiveness. No reconciliation. I know. Mother and son stared at each other. Years of history between them. Love twisted into control. Protection that became imprisonment. I try to make you strong, Elena whispered. You did, just not the way you intended. Luca kissed Ariella's forehead, then looked back at his mother. Goodbye, Elena. Not mother. Elena. The older woman flinched like she'd been struck. Luca and Ariella walked toward the door. Dominic stepped aside. The lieutenants parted. Nobody tried to stop them. Outside, the night air was cool, clean. The boat waited 100 yards away. Freedom waited. But before they reached it, a sound split the darkness. Gunshot. Luca grabbed Ariella, pulled her down behind a shipping container. More shots, but not aimed at them, coming from inside the warehouse. What's happening? Ariella gasped. Someone's making a move. Using this moment, using her distraction, Luca pulled out his phone. Sent a message. The evidence. All of it. Released. What did you do? Why should have done years ago? He pulled her close. No matter what happens now, it's done. She can't stop it. The FBI will have everything by morning. Inside the warehouse, shouting. More gunfire. Then silence. Dominic appeared in the doorway. Blood on his shirt. He looked at Luca. Nodded once. She's alive. But the family is splitting. Half loyal to her. Half wanting change. You did this. He didn't sound angry. Just tired. Go. While you can. Lucas stood. Helped Ariella up. They ran for the boat. Behind them, sirens approached. Police. Lots of them. Someone must have called. Or maybe the FBI had been monitoring. The Mancini Empire was falling. Tonight. Now. In real time. They reached the boat. The captain started the engine. Pulled away from the dock. Ariella looked back. At the city. At the warehouse. At the life she'd lived just days ago. Do you regret it? She asked. Giving up everything. Luca pulled her close. Kissed her. Long, deep. Like they had all the time in the world now. I don't regret choosing you, he said against her lips. I regret not doing it sooner. The boat cut through dark water. Heading toward a horizon they couldn't see, but somehow trusted was there. Behind them, Manhattan's lights glittered. Beautiful. Cold. Full of secrets. They left it all behind. When you have to choose between everything you know and the one thing that makes you feel alive, what would you pick? Couldnt. 6 months later, the headlines were still running. Mancini Empire crumbles. 50 indictments and counting. FBI breaks decades-old crime. Family ring. Elena Mancini faces life in prison. Ariella read them on her phone while morning coffee brewed. The cabin they'd rented in Oregon was small. Quiet. The kind of quiet that took weeks to get used to after years of city noise. Her mother sat by the window knitting. She had good days and bad days. Today was good. She hummed while she worked, sunlight catching in her silver hair. "What are you reading, baby girl?" Naomi asked. "Just news, Mama. Anything interesting?" "Not really." Ariella set down the phone. "How's the blanket coming?" "Almost done. Luca will like the colors, I think." Luca was at the small restaurant they'd opened last month. Nothing fancy, just a local place. Good food, honest prices, no reservations required. He named it La Liberta, freedom. When people asked what the name meant, Ariella always smiled. Never explained. The door opened. Luca walked in carrying fresh bread and vegetables from the market. He looked different now, lighter somehow, like he'd been carrying a weight for so long he'd forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. "Your mother called," he said, setting groceries on the counter. Ariella froze. "Your mother? From prison. She's being transferred to a federal facility in California. Wanted me to know she won't be fighting the charges anymore." He paused, leaned against the counter. "She said to tell you she was wrong. About you. About us. Do you believe her?" "I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe prison changes people." He moved closer, wrapped his arms around her waist. "But it doesn't matter. That life is over." Ariella leaned into him. "You miss it sometimes. The power. The money. I miss what I thought it represented. But I don't miss the cost." He kissed her temple. "This, your mother, that tiny restaurant where I burn toast every morning. This is real. The rest was just expensive make-believe." A knock at the door interrupted them. Ariella tensed. Even after 6 months, unexpected visitors made her nervous. Luca opened the door carefully. Dominic stood there, thinner, older-looking, hands raised to show he wasn't armed. "Before you slam the door," he said quickly, "I'm not here for her. I'm here because I need help." Luca's jaw tightened. "What kind of help?" "The kind where I testify against the rest of the family. The kind where I try to fix what I helped break." Dominic looked past Luca to Ariella. "I'm sorry. For everything. For what I did. What I almost did. Why the change of heart?" Ariella asked. "Because I watched my aunt go down swinging. Refusing to admit she was wrong. Refusing to change even when it cost her everything." He met Luca's eyes. "I don't want to die an old man in prison still pretending I was right." Luca studied his cousin for a long moment. "The FBI. Already talking to them. But I wanted to apologize to you both first. Face to face. Because you deserve that. You could have killed her," Lucas said quietly. "In that warehouse. You had the shot. I know. But you loved her. And I figured that had to mean something. Even in our family." They stood in the doorway. Old wounds between them. New possibilities, maybe. Finally, Lucas stepped back. "Coffee." Dominic's shoulders sagged with relief. "Yeah, coffee sound good." They sat around the small table. Naomi offered Dominic some of her knitting. He took it graciously, even though he clearly had no idea what to do with it. "What will you do after?" Ariella asked. "After you testify?" "Disappear like you. Maybe. If I'm lucky." He smiled. "Sad. Turns out there's not a big job market for reformed mob enforcers." "There's always restaurants," Lucas said. "Someone's got to teach me how to not burn toast." They laughed. Not quite easy, but closer than they'd ever been. That night, after Dominic left with promises to stay in touch, Luca and Ariella walked down to the small beach near their cabin. The Pacific rolled in cold and gray. Seabirds called overhead. "You think we'll ever stop looking over our shoulders?" Ariella asked. "Probably not, but maybe that's okay. Maybe it reminds us what we survived." He pulled her close. "What we chose." They stood there as the sun set. Two people who'd been strangers days ago, but now knew each other's scars better than their own. "I never thanked you," Ariella said. "For what?" "For asking me to dance. That first night, when you could have just ignored me." Lucas smiled. "I didn't ask you because I wanted to. I asked because my mother was watching." "I know, but you kept dancing even after the song ended. Even after she looked away." "Did I?" "You did. For 3 more seconds." "I counted." He laughed. Kissed her forehead. "Best 3 seconds of my life." They turned back toward the cabin, toward the life they'd built from rubble, toward a future that was uncertain but finally theirs. Behind them, the ocean kept moving, patient, endless. washing away footprints and leaving the sand clean. Justice doesn't always look like revenge. Sometimes it looks like freedom. Have you ever had to walk away from everything to find peace? Share your story below. 1 year later, the restaurant was full. Saturday night, every table taken. Luca worked the grill while Ariella moved between customers with practiced ease. Her mother sat at the corner table, greeting regulars by name, remembering some days, inventing memories on others. No one here knew who they used to be, who Luca's family had been, what empire had crumbled to build this small, honest life. They were just a couple who made good pasta and always had a smile. At closing time, after the last customer left and the dishes were done, Luca dimmed the lights. Put on music, the same song that had played that first night at La Mer Lux. "What are you doing?" Ariella asked. "Something I should have done a long time ago." He extended his hand. "Dance with me. Your mother's not watching anymore." "I know. That's exactly why I'm asking." She took his hand. They moved slowly across the empty dining room floor. No audience, no pressure, no danger lurking in shadows. Just two people who'd survived the fire and decided to build something in the ashes. "I love you," Lucas said quietly. "I don't think I've actually said it out loud. Not properly. You've shown it every day, but you deserve to hear it too." He pulled back slightly, looked at her face like he was memorizing it. "I love you, and I'm grateful every single day that you were brave enough to dance with me when everyone else was too afraid." Ariella felt tears prick her eyes. "I love you too, even though you still burn toast." He laughed. "I'm getting better. You're really not." They swayed together. The music played. Outside, rain started to fall. Soft, steady. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened?" Ariella asked. "If you'd said no that night? If I'd refused? Every day. But then I remember we didn't. We chose each other, even when it was hard, even when it cost everything." His voice dropped lower. "That's the story I want to tell. Not about what we gave up, about what we found." The song ended. It didn't stop moving. In a corner, Naomi had fallen asleep in her chair. Peaceful, safe. Luca looked around the restaurant, at the mismatched tables and the chipped paint in the small kitchen where he'd learned to cook from scratch. At the life that would never make headlines or turn into legend. "You know what the best part is?" he said. "What?" "No one's watching. No one's judging. No one cares who we are or what we do. We're just people, and that's enough." Ariella rested her head on his chest. Listened to his heartbeat. Steady, real, alive. "It's more than enough," she whispered. "It's everything." They danced in the empty restaurant. No spotlight, no cameras, no empire building or falling around them. Just two people who'd learned that real power wasn't in making others fear you. It was in making one person feel safe. The rain kept falling. The music kept playing. And somewhere in Manhattan, the city lights kept glittering for people still chasing the wrong kind of dreams. But here, in a small restaurant in Oregon, two people had already found what mattered. Freedom, love, peace. The simple, quiet justice of choosing right over easy. Luca had been born into a world where power meant everything. Where control was currency and fear was respect. Where people danced because they were told to, not because they wanted to. But the night he asked a waitress to dance to protect her from his mother's gaze, everything changed. He learned that real power wasn't in making people fear you. It was in making one person feel safe enough to be honest, brave enough to stay, strong enough to choose love even when the whole world burned. And in the end, that was the only power worth having. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We share stories like this every week. Stories about ordinary people making extraordinary choices. Stories about quiet justice finding its way. Stories about love that redeems instead of destroys. Drop a comment below sharing your thoughts. Your story might inspire someone else who needs to hear it. See you in the next one. And remember, the strongest thing you can do is choose someone who makes you want to be better, even if it costs you everything else.